Arin lived far away from the busy human colonies. His small home stood near the edge of a wide desert where the land touched the borders of alien territory. Most humans avoided that region, but Arin liked the quiet. He worked as a repairman, fixing old machines, comm towers, and energy lines that the colonies had long forgotten. That morning was like any other. The sun rose red over the horizon, lighting the desert in warm colors. Arin carried his tools across the sand to an old comm tower. The tower had been silent for months, and he wanted to bring it back online. As he worked, the wind whistled through the broken metal. It was lonely work, but Arin was used to silence. While tightening a cable, he paused. A sound carried on the wind, faint and sharp. At first he thought it was the call of some desert bird. Then he heard it again, clearer this time, a cry. Someone was calling for help. Arin dropped his tools and listened carefully. The cry came from the direction of the rocky canyon not far from the tower. Without thinking, he ran. His boots pounded against the sand as he followed the echoing voice. When he reached the canyon, he saw the ground broken and unstable. Rocks had fallen from the cliffs above, blocking part of the path. Dust still floated in the air, which meant the collapse was recent. Somewhere under the rubble, he heard the faint sobs of a child. Arin climbed down carefully, brushing away stones with his hands. "Hold on," he called. "I am coming." The crying grew louder, full of fear. He dug faster, lifting heavy pieces of rock and pushing them aside. His arms ached, but he did not stop. Finally, he uncovered a small figure pinned beneath a slab of stone. It was not a human child. Her skin was pale blue, and faint lines of silver glowed across her arms. Her large eyes shimmered with tears, and a crest of soft, feather-like hair curled at the top of her head. Arin had seen her kind from a distance before, members of the ruling clans, but never this close. She looked up at him with pain and fear. "Please," she whispered. Arin knelt beside her. The stone across her leg was heavy, far too heavy for her small body to move. He braced himself, pushed with all his strength, and after a long struggle managed to roll it aside. The girl gasped in relief. Arin quickly checked her leg. It was bruised, but not broken. "Can you walk?" he asked gently. She shook her head, her crest trembling. "It hurts." Arin lifted her carefully into his arms. She clung to him, still crying softly. He climbed out of the canyon with care, carrying her as if she weighed nothing. At the top, he laid her down on a flat patch of ground and gave her a drink from his water flask. The girl's breathing slowed, and she looked at him with wide eyes. "You saved me," she said in a small voice. Arin smiled faintly. "Anyone would have done the same." She shook her head. "No. Others run from us. You stayed." Before Arin could answer, the ground trembled with a deep sound. From the distance, figures appeared, tall aliens in shining armor, their cloaks marked with bright symbols. They moved quickly, their weapons gleaming in the sun. At their center walked a woman taller than all the rest, her presence commanding. Her hair crest was longer and brighter, her robes flowing with silver threads. Her eyes burned with sharp intelligence and power. Arin realized at once who she must be. He had heard her name whispered even in human lands, Queen Elira, ruler of the strongest clan in this region. And the small girl he had rescued could only be her daughter. The queen rushed forward, kneeling beside the child. She touched her gently, her stern face softening with relief. "Myra," she whispered. "You are safe." The girl smiled weakly. "Mother. He saved me." She pointed at Arin, who stood awkwardly nearby, covered in dust and sweat. Dozens of alien eyes turned toward him. Some narrowed with suspicion. Others softened with curiosity. But the queen's gaze was the strongest. She rose to her full height, her eyes fixed on Arin. "You," she said in a clear, ringing voice. A human, saved the heir of my blood. Arin lowered his head. I only did what I could. She was in danger. I could not leave her. The queen stepped closer. For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Then she spoke words that made the guards shift uneasily. By the law of my people, one who saves the heir belongs to the clan. No longer an outsider. No longer alone. The soldiers bowed their heads at her words. The child Myra looked at Arin with wide, hopeful eyes. Arin, however, felt his chest tighten. He had not sought honor, nor wished for belonging in a strange clan. He had only acted on instinct, rushing to help a child in need. Yet now, before him, the queen's decree was clear. His life would never be the same. As the guards surrounded him, some with doubt in their eyes and others with respect, Arin realized something important. His choice to save one life had drawn him into the heart of an alien world, a place where he would be tested in ways he could not yet imagine. The queen raised her hand, signaling for her people to step back. Her voice carried across the canyon as she spoke to them all. This human is no stranger. He is one of us now. He is clan. The crowd answered with a deep cheer that shook the air. Arin stood frozen, the little girl still watching him with trust. The queen's words echoed in his ears. Clan. Belonging. Responsibility. He had never expected any of this. The desert wind blew softly around them, carrying away the dust of the collapse. Arin knew his quiet life was gone forever. The sun had not yet reached its highest point when Arin found himself walking beside the queen's soldiers. Their armor glinted like polished stone, and their boots struck the ground in steady rhythm. The little girl Myra rode in her mother's arms, smiling now that she was safe. The queen, tall and commanding, walked at the center, every step filled with quiet strength. Arin walked a few paces behind. His clothes were dusty, and his hands were rough from work, yet the guards kept glancing at him. Some looked at him with doubt, others with a trace of respect, but none dared to question the queen's words. Arin felt uneasy. He had saved a child, nothing more, yet somehow that act had pulled him into something far greater. They moved across the desert until the land rose into green hills. Strange tall trees, their leaves white and silver, spread shade across the path. Birds with wings like glass flitted from branch to branch, calling out in high voices. Arin had seen many alien creatures before, but to walk this deep into clan lands felt different. He was no longer a visitor who could turn back whenever he wished. At last they reached the gates of the queen's stronghold. The walls were tall, built of smooth black stone that shimmered in the light. Towers rose high, their banners dancing in the wind. At the sight of the queen, the gates opened wide, and people rushed forward. Crowds gathered, whispering as they saw Myra safe in her mother's arms. Their voices rose with relief and joy. But when they noticed Arin, a murmur of confusion spread among them. Humans were rare here, and none expected to see one walking so close to the queen. The queen raised her hand, and the voices fell silent. She stepped into the courtyard with Myra, then turned to face her people. Arin stood at her side, unsure what to do. My daughter was lost, Queen Elira said, her voice ringing clear across the walls. She was buried beneath stone and shadow. None of us reached her in time. But this one, she turned her gaze toward Arin. This human saved her. Gasps spread through the crowd. Some shook their heads. Others looked surprised. A few bowed their heads in respect. The queen continued, her tone firm. Our law is older than any one of us. The one who saves the heir belongs to the clan. He is no outsider. He is one of us. The people murmured again, but they did not dare speak against their queen. The guards struck their spears against the stone ground, a sharp sound of agreement. Myra leaned toward Arin and smiled shyly, as if happy he stood beside her. Arin felt the weight of many eyes on him. His heart beat faster. He had never sought attention, never cared for honor or titles. He only wanted to live quietly and do his work. Yet here he was, standing before an entire people who now looked at him as something more. The queen motioned for him to follow. Together, they walked through the wide courtyard into the great hall of the stronghold. The hall was vast, with pillars carved in the shape of great beasts. The floor shone like glass, reflecting the banners that hung from the ceiling. Long tables stretched on either side, and nobles in fine robes sat watching. At the far end of the hall stood a throne of stone and crystal. The queen set Myra gently upon a smaller seat beside her and then took her place upon the throne. She gestured to Arin. "Come forward." Arin stepped carefully across the shining floor. The nobles whispered among themselves, their eyes following his every move. He felt out of place in his simple clothes and worn boots. Yet he did not stop. When he stood before the throne, the queen rose again. She placed her hand upon his shoulder. "This human has done what few would dare. He risked his life for the heir of my blood. For that, he is bound to us." She turned to the nobles. "He will be taught our ways. He will walk among us not as a stranger but as clan." The hall filled with mixed voices. Some clapped their hands in respect, others frowned in doubt. One noble, tall and stern, stood and spoke. "My queen, he is human. Their kind is weak. Can he truly stand as clan?" The queen's eyes flashed. "Strength is not only in the arm. It is in the heart. He proved his worth when he acted without fear, when even our own guards were far away. Would you question the law of our ancestors?" The noble lowered his head, silenced. The queen turned back to Arin. "You have a choice," she said softly, though her voice carried through the hall. "You may leave, return to your quiet life, and be free of us. Or you may stay, accept your place among us, and learn what it means to be clan." Arin hesitated. The thought of leaving was tempting. His small home in the desert was familiar and safe. But as he looked at Myra's trusting eyes and heard the respect in the queen's voice, something stirred in him. He realized that turning away might not be so simple anymore. He bowed his head slightly. "I will stay." The queen nodded, her expression unreadable. Then she turned to her people. "It is decided. He is one of us." The hall filled with the sound of hands striking together, though not all joined in. Some clapped loudly, others only whispered. But the decision was made, and none could change it now. Later that night, Arin was given a chamber within the stronghold. The walls were carved with glowing lines, and the ceiling open to the stars. Food was brought to him, dishes he had never seen before, filled with strange spices and colors. He sat alone, his thoughts heavy. Everything had changed in a single day. He had saved a child, and now he belonged to a clan he barely understood. He wondered if he was ready for what would come. Far away in her chamber, Queen Elira sat beside her daughter. Myra leaned against her mother, smiling softly. "He is kind," she whispered. "I am glad he stayed." The queen looked out at the stars beyond the window. Her eyes narrowed, as if she could see dangers waiting in the distance. "Yes," she said quietly. "He may be more important than he knows." The morning sun poured through the carved windows of Arin's new chamber. He opened his eyes slowly, still not used to the glowing walls and the faint hum of alien energy running through the stone. For a long moment, he lay still, thinking about the past 2 days. He had left his quiet life in the desert behind. Now he was inside the stronghold of the queen herself, surrounded by people who looked at him as something he did not fully understand. Clan. A knock came at the door. Arin stood quickly, pulling on the simple robe that had been given to him the night before. The door slid open without a sound, and a young attendant entered. Her eyes were bright, her crest of hair bound with silver rings. She bowed lightly. "The queen calls for you," she said. Arin nodded, his heart already heavy with unease. He followed her through long corridors lined with murals of old battles and victories. Everywhere he looked, the clan's history stared back at him, alien warriors with banners, leaders raising blades of light, symbols of loyalty carved into stone. He wondered where a simple human like himself could possibly fit in such a story. At last, they reached the great hall. It was filled once more with nobles and guards. The air buzzed with expectation. At the far end sat Queen Elira on her throne, Myra at her side. The child waved happily when she saw Arin enter, her smile a welcome sight among so many unreadable faces. The queen rose as Arin walked forward. Her robes shimmered in silver light, her presence both graceful and commanding. "Step forward, Arin of the desert," she called, her voice echoing off the pillars. He obeyed, walking across the shining floor until he stood before her. Queen Elira lifted her hand, and silence fell over the hall. "According to the law of our ancestors, the one who saves the heir of the blood is no longer an outsider. By this law, I claim you as clan. From this day forward, you belong to us." Her words struck the hall like thunder. Some nobles nodded in solemn agreement. Others frowned, their eyes sharp with doubt. A few muttered under their breath, unhappy with such a decision. Arin swallowed hard. He had known this moment was coming, but hearing it aloud felt heavier than he had imagined. To belong to a clan meant more than living in their halls. It meant duty, loyalty, and ties he had never asked for. One noble stepped forward. He was tall, his crest dyed deep crimson, his voice sharp. "My queen, forgive my words, but he is human. Can such a one carry the weight of our law? Can he stand beside us in times of trial?" The queen's eyes narrowed. "Do you doubt the law itself, Varin?" The noble lowered his gaze but did not step back. "I doubt not the law, but the man. His kind are fragile, untested. To give him place among us may weaken what we are." Whispers spread through the hall. The queen remained calm, her voice steady. "Strength is not measured only in muscle or bone. This human saw danger and did not run. He faced death with no thought of reward. Tell me, Varin, how many of your warriors would do the same for a child not of their blood?" Varin clenched his jaw and said nothing more. The queen turned back to Arin. "The law gives you place, but it is your choice to accept it. Speak now before all. Do you accept my claim? Do you stand as one of us?" The hall grew silent. Every eye turned to Arin. He felt their weight pressing on him like a storm. His life had been quiet until now. No one had ever looked to him for anything more than simple repairs or small trades. Yet here he stood, asked to accept a bond that could change everything. He looked at Myra. The little girl's eyes shone with hope. She believed in him, trusted him. He thought of the canyon, the fear in her voice, the way she had clung to him when he carried her out. If he turned away now, he would not only deny the queen but also the child he had saved. Arin bowed his head. "I accept." The hall erupted in sound. Some cheered, their hands striking together in respect. Others grumbled, shaking their heads. But none could deny the queen's will. Queen Elira lifted a cloak from the hands of an attendant. It was dark blue, edged in silver, the mark of her clan. She draped it across Arin's shoulders herself. "From this moment, you are clan-born. You will eat at our tables, walk our halls, and share our burdens. Fail us, and you will be cast out. Stand with us, and you will never be alone again." Arin nodded. The weight of the cloak was heavy, yet strangely comforting. The queen turned to the crowd. "He will be tested. He will learn our ways. Let no one call him stranger." The ceremony ended, but the tension in the hall did not fade. As Arin walked through the crowd, he felt their eyes following him. Some gave nods of respect, Others turned away in silent disapproval. He realized that while the queen's word gave him a place, respect would not come so easily. He would have to earn it. That evening, Arin sat in his chamber again, the cloak folded beside him. His thoughts raced. He had chosen to accept the queen's claim, yet doubt lingered in his heart. Could he really live among them as one of their own? Could he learn their ways, face their trials, and not fail? A soft knock came at the door. When it opened, Myra stepped inside, her steps light. She carried a small bundle in her hands. "This is for you," she said with a smile. Arin opened it to find a small carving of stone shaped like a bird with open wings. The detail was simple but beautiful. "It is a gift," Myra explained. "In our clan, when someone is welcomed, we give them a bird. It means freedom, but also trust. You saved me. I want you to have it." Arin held the carving, feeling its smooth surface. He smiled faintly. "Thank you, Myra." Her eyes shone with joy. "Now you are not alone." She skipped back toward the door, leaving him in silence once more. Arin placed the carving beside the cloak and looked out the window at the stars. He still felt like a stranger, but maybe just maybe this was the beginning of something more. For the first time, he wondered not about what he had lost but about what he might gain. The queen had claimed him as clan, but it would be his own actions that decided whether the clan truly accepted him. Days turned into weeks, and Arin began to feel the weight of his new life inside the queen's stronghold. Though Queen Elira had claimed him as clan, acceptance was not automatic. Many still looked at him with doubt, whispering when he passed, watching his every move as if waiting for him to fail. The queen herself remained firm. She told her people that Arin would not only carry the cloak of the clan but would also face the same trials every member must endure. "If he is to be one of us," she declared, "then he will prove it through action, not only words." So Arin was placed under training. His guide was a seasoned warrior named Turin, a broad-shouldered alien whose scarred face carried years of battle. Turin did not hide his feelings. "I do not trust you," he said on the first day, his voice low and steady. "But if the queen commands that you train, then I will train you. Fail, and I will not protect you from the judgment of others." Arin nodded. He did not argue. He knew trust could not be demanded. It had to be earned. The first trial was strength. Turin led him to the practice grounds where young warriors lifted heavy stones, trained with weighted staffs, and sparred in the dust. Arin's arms ached after only a short time, his human body slower and weaker than the others. Laughter followed him when he stumbled. "Too fragile," someone muttered. "Not clan-born," another whispered. Arin heard every word, but he did not stop. He forced himself to lift again, to rise after every fall. Sweat poured down his face, his muscles screamed, but he pushed on. By the end of the day, he could barely stand, yet he stood anyway. Turin gave him a long look, and though his voice remained stern, there was a trace of respect in his eyes. "You did not quit. That is something." The second trial was skill. Here, Arin had to learn the weapons of the clan. Blades of crystal, spears that pulsed with light, and bows that sang when drawn. He was clumsy at first, his movements slow, his strikes weak. The warriors laughed louder now, mocking his every attempt. But Myra often appeared at the edge of the training ground, cheering him on with a bright smile. "You saved me," she would remind him. "You can do this too." Her faith gave him strength. Day after day, he practiced, listening carefully to Turin's corrections, learning how to move with speed and precision. His strikes grew sharper, his defenses steadier. He was not the fastest, nor the strongest, but he learned to think quickly, to adapt, to use his human patience and focus where brute force failed. By the end of the second week, he managed to stand his ground in a spar against a young warrior. He lost in the end, but he did not fall easily. The laughter was quieter after that. The third trial was knowledge. Clan members were expected to know their history, their laws, and their customs. Arin spent long hours in the learning halls, guided by teachers who read from glowing tablets and carved scrolls. At first, the words and symbols confused him, but he listened carefully, asked questions, and practiced until he began to understand. Some nobles tested him with difficult questions, hoping to expose his ignorance. "What is the vow of the first queen?" one asked with a sly smile. Arin thought carefully, then answered in the simple words he remembered from the scrolls. "To guard the weak, to honor the law, and to never walk away from those in need." The noble frowned, for Arin's answer was correct. Whispered doubts grew quieter, replaced by murmurs of surprise. Yet the hardest trial was not strength, skill, or knowledge. It was trust. One evening, Turin led Arin beyond the stronghold walls. The sun was setting, painting the sky in gold and red. They entered a small village where farmers and workers lived, far from the grand halls. The people here had heard of Arin, but many had never seen him. At first, they watched from a distance, unsure. Then a child approached him, holding out a piece of fruit. "Are you really clan?" the child asked. Arin knelt and accepted the fruit with a smile. "That is what the queen says. I hope I can prove it true." The child grinned and ran off. Slowly, others gathered, curious. Some asked him to tell the story of how he saved Myra. Arin spoke simply, without boasting, describing only what had happened. His honesty touched them. By the time the night ended, laughter and warmth filled the air, and the villagers no longer looked at him with suspicion but with cautious welcome. When Turin saw this, he nodded thoughtfully. "You are not like us in body," he admitted. "But perhaps you carry something we need. You do not command respect with strength. You earn it with heart. That is rare." Arin felt a small spark of hope. Maybe he truly could belong here. Still, not everyone was convinced. Some nobles remained bitter, whispering that the queen's decision weakened their traditions. They watched Arin closely, waiting for the moment he would fail. The queen, however, stood firm. One evening, she summoned Arin to her private chamber. The room was quiet, lit by soft glowing stones. Myra sat nearby, carving shapes into wood, humming to herself. Queen Elira studied Arin with steady eyes. "You have begun to walk our path. Some doubt you. Others are slowly changing. But remember this, human clan is not just about trials. It is about standing with one another when storms come. Can you promise me that? Can you promise my daughter, my people, that you will not walk away when the storm arrives?" Arin met her gaze. He thought of the canyon, of Myra's small voice crying out for help. He thought of the laughter in the training grounds, the trust of the villagers, the weight of the cloak on his shoulders. He took a deep breath. "I promise," he said. The queen gave a small nod, her expression unreadable, though Myra smiled brightly. And so Arin's trials of trust continued, each day shaping him further. He was still human, still different, but piece by piece, he was becoming something more in the eyes of the clan. What he did not yet know was that true danger was drawing closer, and soon he would face not just the doubts of the clan, but enemies who wished to tear it apart. Life inside the stronghold began to settle into a rhythm for Arin. Each morning, he trained with Turin and the young warriors, his body growing stronger, his movements sharper. Each afternoon, he studied the laws and customs of the clan, slowly piecing together their long history. At night, he often sat quietly in his chamber, looking out at the stars, wondering how far this path would carry him. But beyond the walls of the stronghold, danger stirred. Not all clans respected Queen Elira's rule. Among them, the most ambitious was the Red Crest clan, led by a rival chief named Daryl. Daryl envied the queen's strength and influence. When he heard whispers that she had claimed a human as part of her clan, his envy turned to anger. To trust a human is weakness, he told his followers. If we strike now, her people will see she has lost her judgment. They will question her rule. And this human will be the key to her downfall. So the Red Crest clan began their plans in secret, sending spies into the queen's lands. Inside the stronghold, Arin sensed none of this at first. He focused on his training. Yet he could not help noticing the way certain nobles still watched him with cold eyes. They spoke softly to each other, and though he could not hear the words, he felt the weight of their doubt. One evening, a festival was held to honor the harvest. The courtyard filled with music, lanterns, and laughter. Bright ribbons decorated the walls, and the people wore their finest robes. Queen Elira sat on a high seat, Myra beside her, smiling at the joy around them. Arin walked among the crowd, uneasy but trying to enjoy the warmth of the gathering. Children laughed as they ran past him, and villagers offered him food, remembering how he had spoken kindly to them before. For a moment, he felt almost at peace. Then he noticed something. A man moved through the crowd too quickly, his cloak pulled low, his eyes shifting from side to side. Another figure followed behind, then another. Arin's heart tightened. Something felt wrong. He watched carefully as the three figures drew closer to the queen's seat. Their hands moved beneath their cloaks. Weapons glinted faintly in the firelight. Without thinking, Arin pushed through the crowd. "Guards," he shouted, his voice sharp with urgency. "To the queen." The crowd froze in confusion. The cloaked figures sprang forward, blades flashing. The nearest guard reacted too slowly, caught off guard by the sudden strike. Arin moved faster. He grabbed a fallen staff from the ground and swung it with all his strength. The wooden shaft cracked against one attacker's arm, sending his blade spinning into the air. Another turned toward Arin, lunging with a short dagger. Arin barely dodged, the blade cutting across his sleeve. He swung again, striking the attacker in the chest and knocking him back into the dust. The third assassin aimed for the queen herself, leaping up the steps of the high seat. Myra cried out, clinging to her mother. Queen Elira rose swiftly, her own blade flashing, but Arin was already moving. He threw himself forward, grabbing the assassin's wrist before the strike could land. The blade sliced past the queen's shoulder, missing her by only a breath. Arin twisted the wrist, forcing the weapon free. The assassin snarled and tried to strike again with his other hand, but Arin shoved him down the steps. Guards rushed in at last, surrounding the attackers and dragging them away. Silence followed, heavy and stunned. The music had stopped, the laughter gone. All eyes turned toward Arin, who stood breathing hard, the broken staff still in his hands. Queen Elira placed a hand on Myra's shoulder, calming her. Then she looked down at Arin. Her eyes were steady, her voice strong. "You saw what others did not. You acted when others hesitated. Once again, you have proven yourself." The crowd erupted with cheers. This time, the sound was not mixed with doubt or whispers. It was full, loud, and clear. Arin lowered the staff, his chest rising and falling. He had acted without thought, driven only by instinct. Yet he knew this moment would not be forgotten. That night, after the attackers were taken to the dungeons, the queen called Arin to her private chamber. Torin stood beside her, his expression unreadable. "These men were not common thieves," the queen said. "They carried the marks of the Red Crest clan. My enemies grow bold. They hoped to strike at me during the festival, when my guard was lowered. But they did not expect you." Arin frowned. "Why target me?" The queen's gaze was sharp. "Because you are new. Because some see you as a weakness. They thought to use you, or break you, to turn my people against me." She paused, then added, "Instead, you turned their plan to ash. Torin crossed his arms. You fought well, human. Not like a trained warrior, but with courage. That is something even the strongest blade cannot replace. Arin felt the weight of their words. He had never sought to be more than a simple man. Yet twice now, fate had placed him in moments that tested his will. And twice, he had chosen to act. Queen Elira studied him for a long moment. The Red Crest clan will not stop here. More shadows will come. But know this, Arin, you are no longer merely a guest in these halls. You are a shield of this clan now. And a shield must be ready for the next strike. Arin bowed his head. I understand. When he returned to his chamber, he found Myra waiting at the door. She looked up at him with wide eyes. You saved us again, she whispered. Arin smiled faintly. I only did what anyone should. Myra shook her head. Not anyone. You. She handed him a small flower, glowing faintly in the dark. For courage, she said. He accepted it, his heart warming despite the shadows that gathered around them. For though he had won respect that night, Arin knew the danger was only beginning. The Red Crest clan would strike again, and when they did, it would test not only his courage but the strength of the entire clan. The days after the festival were heavy with silence. Though the stronghold walls stood strong, whispers of fear drifted through the halls. People spoke of the Red Crest clan and their boldness. If they had dared to strike during a night of joy, what would they attempt next? Arin felt the weight of those whispers. When he walked in the courtyard, eyes followed him. Some looked with respect, some with unease. He had saved the queen again, but his presence also reminded everyone of the danger that had come so close. Queen Elira did not hide from the truth. She called her council together, filling the great hall with the glow of torches. Warriors, elders, and nobles sat in a circle. Arin stood quietly at the side, not certain if he belonged among them. The queen raised her voice. The Red Crest clan grows bold. They send assassins into my halls, into the heart of my people. They test our strength, seeking weakness. We cannot sit idle. We must decide our answer. The council murmured, each voice carrying a different opinion. Strike first, said one elder. Show them our power. No, another argued. We must guard our borders and wait. To march into their lands may cost too much. They will come again, Torin warned. If we only defend, we give them the choice of time and place. The hall grew tense. All the while, Arin stood in silence. He was not of this clan, yet their future now touched his life. At last, the queen turned her gaze to him. You are quiet, Arin. Speak. He hesitated, then answered with care. I am no leader. I know little of war. But I have seen how fear grows when people feel unprotected. If we wait and do nothing, fear may weaken us from within. Yet if we strike without thought, we may burn more than we protect. Perhaps there is a middle path. The council leaned closer. Arin continued. The Red Crest believe you are weak because of me. They believe a human is a chain around your strength. Then let us prove them wrong. Do not strike blindly, but prepare. Strengthen your borders, gather allies, let them see you are not afraid. Show them I am not a weakness, but part of your shield. The hall was silent for a moment. Then Torin gave a firm nod. There is wisdom in his words. A shield does not rush to strike, but it does not bend either. Queen Elira's eyes softened. So you choose loyalty, Arin. Even though danger grows, you stand with us. Arin bowed his head. I do. This clan gave me a place when I had none. I will not turn away. The queen smiled faintly. Then the council has heard. We will guard our borders, strengthen our watch, and wait for the Red Crest to reveal their next move. And when they do, we will be ready. The decision was made. Yet the danger still loomed. In the weeks that followed, the stronghold changed. Watchtowers burned with fire through the night, warriors patrolled the forests, and scouts returned with news of Red Crest movements. The people grew tense, but they also grew united. For the first time, they looked at Arin not with doubt but with trust. He trained beside them, worked beside them, and ate beside them. Slowly, he began to feel he truly belonged. One evening, as the sun set in crimson light, Myra came to see him during his training. She carried a wooden blade, almost too heavy for her small hands. "You are always training," she said, frowning a little. "I want to train too." Arin laughed softly. "A warrior's path is hard, Myra. I do not care. If danger comes again, I want to stand, not hide." Her determination made Arin pause. He knelt and placed his hand on her shoulder. "Then you must learn patience first. A warrior is not only strong with a blade. A warrior is strong with heart. And I think your heart is already strong." Myra smiled, her eyes bright. She lifted the blade clumsily, and Arin guided her hands, teaching her the first simple stance. Though her strikes were weak, her spirit was fierce. That night, as he returned to his chamber, Arin thought of the strange path his life had taken. He had saved a child without knowing who she was. That choice had tied his fate to a queen, a clan, and a land not his own. Now, as war shadows grew, he no longer wished to escape that bond. But the Red Crest clan was not idle. Chief Darrell sat in his own hall, listening to the report of the failed assassins. His face twisted with anger. "This queen thinks to mock me," he growled. "She hides behind her walls, trusting a human to be her shield. If her people cheer for him, then I will break him before their eyes. When he falls, her clan will break as well." So Darrell began planning a strike not against the stronghold itself, but against Arin. He sent word to his spies, "Watch the human, wait for him beyond the walls, and when the chance comes, take him." Unaware of this, Arin continued his training. One morning, Turin brought him into the forest for a test. The older warrior's face was serious as they walked beneath tall trees. "You have shown courage," Turin said. "But courage alone is not enough. A warrior must also know fear and learn to master it. Today, I will test that." He led Arin into a clearing and gave him a spear. "You will face me. Do not hold back." Arin's heart raced. Turin was stronger, faster, trained for years. Yet he tightened his grip on the spear and nodded. The duel began. Turin moved like a storm, his strikes heavy but precise. Arin blocked clumsily, each blow rattling his arms. Fear rose in him, telling him he could not win. But then he remembered Myra's eyes, the queen's trust, the people's cheers. He forced his feet to stay firm. At last, Turin struck hard, knocking the spear from Arin's hands. The weapon fell into the dirt. Arin's breath came heavy, sweat dripping from his brow. Turin lowered his blade. "You did not run," he said. "That is enough. You are not ready to defeat me, but you are ready to stand beside us." Arin bowed his head, relief filling his chest. He had faced his fear and endured. But as they left the clearing, shadows moved in the forest. Hidden eyes watched, and silent feet followed. The Red Crest spies had found their chance. The forest was quiet, but Arin felt the silence was wrong. Birds no longer sang, and the air seemed heavy. He walked beside Turin, carrying his spear once more. Suddenly, from the shadows, figures moved. 5 warriors of the Red Crest stepped into the clearing, their faces hidden behind red-marked masks. Each carried curved blades that glimmered in the dim light. Turin raised his sword at once. "So they come for you," he said in a low voice. Arin's grip tightened on his spear. His heart raced, but he forced himself to stand tall. Then I will not run. The Red Crest leader laughed. The queen hides behind her walls, but you are alone in the forest. You will not leave alive. When you fall, her people will know she trusted a weak outsider. The ambush began. Two warriors rushed at Arin, blades flashing. He blocked the first strike, the clash sending pain up his arms. He ducked under the second, his breath sharp. Torin fought the others, his blade moving with deadly skill, but he could not cover Arin's back. Fear tried to rise in Arin, but he remembered Torin's words. A warrior must master fear. He planted his feet and struck forward. His spear caught one Red Crest warrior in the shoulder, forcing him back. The second came fast, nearly cutting Arin's side, but Arin twisted and swept his spear low, knocking the attacker to the ground. Torin shouted, "Hold your ground." Arin obeyed. He fought with every ounce of strength, his body moving from instinct and training. The Red Crest warriors pressed hard, but Arin refused to fall. At last, Torin struck down two more, leaving only the leader and one fighter. The leader growled and lunged at Arin. Their blades clashed, sparks flying. The man was stronger, but Arin did not give up. He thought of Myra, the little girl who had once clung to him with trust. He thought of Queen Elira, who had spoken of him not as a weakness but as a shield. He thought of the people who had begun to see him as one of their own. With a final cry, Arin pushed forward, striking the leader's blade aside and pressing the spear to his chest. The leader froze, his eyes wide. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the leader stepped back. "You are no weak human," he said, his voice bitter. "Perhaps you belong to them after all." He signaled his remaining fighter, and together they fled into the shadows of the forest. Arin stood still, chest heaving, sweat dripping from his face. His arms trembled from the effort, but he had not fallen. He had endured. Torin placed a hand on his shoulder. "You faced their test and did not break. The queen will hear of this." Together they returned to the stronghold. Word of the battle spread quickly. By the time they entered the gates, a crowd had gathered. People whispered in awe, pointing to Arin. Children cheered, warriors nodded with respect, and elders bowed their heads. When they reached the great hall, Queen Elira was waiting. Myra stood beside her, eyes wide with pride. The queen listened as Torin told of the ambush, of the Red Crest leader's words, and of Arin's courage. When the tale was done, the hall was silent, all eyes upon Arin. Queen Elira rose from her seat. Her voice rang clear. "You came to us as a stranger, Arin. You saved my daughter without knowing who she was. You stood by me when shadows rose. You faced fear in battle and showed strength not of blood, but of heart. Today, you prove to all that you are not an outsider. You are one of us." She lifted her hand and placed it upon his shoulder. "From this day forward, you belong to the clan of the Silver Crest. You are shield to the queen, brother to the warriors, and kin to our people." The hall erupted in cheers. Warriors struck their weapons against the ground, children clapped, and voices rose in song. Myra ran forward and hugged Arin tightly. "I knew you were strong," she whispered. Arin felt a warmth in his chest unlike any he had known. For so long, he had wandered without belonging. Now, among these people, he had found a home. That night, a feast was held in his honor. Fires burned bright in the courtyard, food and drink were shared, and laughter filled the air. Arin sat beside the queen, who spoke quietly to him. "The Red Crest will not stop," she warned. "They have seen your strength, and that will only make their hatred deeper. But now they know you are not alone. You have us, and we will face whatever comes together." Arin nodded. "I will stand with you. Whatever trials lie ahead, I will not turn away." The queen studied him for a moment, then smiled. Then the clan is stronger than ever. As the night grew late, Arin looked around at the people dancing and singing. For the first time in his life, he felt peace. He was no longer just a wanderer or a stranger. He was part of something greater. Far away, in the dark halls of the Red Crest, Chief Daryl heard of his warrior's failure. His rage was great, but in his heart, he felt a flicker of doubt. Perhaps this human was not weakness after all. Perhaps he had underestimated him. But for now, the Silver Crest clan stood united, their spirits high, their trust unbroken. And at the center of it all stood Arin, once an outsider, now a warrior, shield, and brother.